Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us for this webinar today by Thru, which is how to modernize your customer support file sharing strategy. And we will begin this presentation now. I am Subhashini Simha, VP Product Management and Marketing at Thru. And joining me in this presentation today is Daniel. And just to give a little bit of introduction of ourselves today, I look into product management and marketing at Thru, and cover most of the spaces around product strategy, analyst, and also into marketing. Daniel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello everybody. This is Daniel Herchebes. I'm glad to be here with you today. I'm the Vice President of Customer Success, and in my group we make sure that you're successful when you start using Thru.
Thank you. So in today's presentation, we will cover the topic of customer support file sharing and what are some of the challenges around it. So in our presentation today, we'll start off with the market problem. We'll talk about some of the challenges and some of the key considerations that you may have as you're looking at customer support and overall improving customer experience. We'll talk about a little around how to solve the problem that exists today, and we'll cover some examples on that. And Daniel will also talk about some of the recommendations in terms of when it comes to choosing a solution. How do you choose a solution? How do you solve this problem? And how your customer support overall experience. And we'll cover a little bit around how Thru can be a good fit for you here, and what are some of the important pieces that Thru can help you with, and how Thru differentiates in the market. So with that, I will pass it on to Daniel, and he will start off with the presentation. Daniel, over to you.
Thank you, Sue, and happy to be here with you today. So let's look at the first thing we'll do is look at the market problem. And when we look at a market problem, what are some of the key points that IT professionals are challenged with when their support organization tries to share information? And we'll just change slides. Thank you. So again, when your IT professionals look at their organizations and they realize that there is a problem with sharing files, what they find is that in 66% of the cases in this study done by Forrester is that a lot of people revert to freemium file sharing services, and 62% revert to their email. And when we look at email, we're not necessarily talking about their enterprise email or their corporate email. We're also talking about personal emails. And so people are using their Gmail accounts or their Yahoo accounts or other free email tools. And so they're basically exposing your information or the files that they're sharing with their customers over public emails and call it public file sharing services. So we quickly understand that there is a problem here, and sometimes the IT group will call that shadow IT groups within their own IT organizations. So either business people or other IT users that are again reverting to personal solutions to solving the problems they have with sharing files. And then beyond that, we see other key areas where there are other issues such as source code systems and ticketing tracking systems that are being used to share information. And so here we're looking at a customer experience that needs to be looked at, as well as the agent's experience when they're supporting their customers. And then using subscriptions or licensed file sharing services, we see that that's about 25% of the solutions that are used out there. And now we're getting more into the sanctioned, I guess, solutions that that IT professionals are looking at. So the IT group usually gets together and they're talking to their support organizations, and they're looking at the considerations involved in identifying the problem. And often it is literally the elephant in the room when they find out that the major problem is really about sharing the files, getting the files or logs or databases, these kind of files from their customers so that they can help them solve some of the issues that they're seeing or experiencing. And the questions come up: do we buy, do we build, or do we integrate? And what we find is a lot of times it's all three of those things. So there's always some building involved because we have to build into the business process. There's buying of third-party applications to accelerate the development cycle. And then there's the integration part to really make sure that we integrate with the business process. We look at the scale of transformation. So how big of a transformation do we're looking at? We'll look at some examples in our next slides here where some companies, very large companies, have they have established processes, they have established user interfaces, and their customers are satisfied usually with the user experience. But we're having major problems with systems going down, or getting files from people and providing the right service. And then we have to look at the age of the current application. So maybe we have some applications that are outdated. We have to refactor applications, and that becomes expensive. So are those some of the issues that we need to consider when we're looking at solving the issue as a whole? And then what are the major bottlenecks? What are really the things that are stopping the business from functioning properly? We really have to look at those things and make sure that we address those specifically. And then, of course, there's compliance. Compliance will always come into play. And when we look at compliance, we're also talking about security concerns. And those are often today some of the issues that crop up as we look at all of these transformations and old applications, and do we really have the level of security that we need? There may have been a breach recently, and that may be the pain point that's causing us to look at the issues at hand. And then finally, we talked about it a little bit earlier, business process analysis is key. So we really want to make sure that we understand what the current processes are so that we can really fix them and modernize our business process. So now we look at the decision factors, and we talked about what are the issues that we're faced with in the previous slide, and now we're looking at what are the decision factors. Well, here we're looking at what is the value of changing, of transforming our solutions, of modernizing our system. And so again, through a Forrester study, there was a question that was asked, and what benefits do you expect as a result of using an enterprise-grade file sharing and collaboration application designed for the software and electronics industry? And some of the key issues or answers that came back, obviously, are improved productivity. Those are the main things that we're looking at, and reduce cost. And so we find that we have antiquated systems that are sitting out there, FTP servers, for example, and those FTP servers are disconnected from the applications that are being used. And so there's a lot of time wasted in receiving the files, having those files put in FTP servers, trying to get those files opened into the cases that we're working with. And so everything is very disconnected, which really impacts productivity. And then there's improved security was the other major concern or I guess value that the IT professionals were looking for. And we're looking for improved security and more control over the exchange of files. And so here we talk about governance, right? So again, productivity, and then that brings on governance. And then finally, speed. And of course, with productivity and security, you're always walking that fine line of how do we still make the systems user-friendly? How do we get the information transferred quickly? And how do we get patches back out to our customers? And how do we make that all seamless? So those are the key value propositions that are behind a major transformation of modernizing our support systems. So how do we solve all this? Well, we're talking about major projects in a lot of times, but we can really make those projects small. You know, we break them up. So let's look at how we would do that. So let's take some examples. We look at EMC, who has recently been acquired by Dell, by the way, as we all know. And so EMC came to Thru, and they had these specific issues that we mentioned before. Their business challenge is that they were using legacy applications. And so they already had in-house support systems that were working well for their end users and for their agents, but they were breaking often. And so we had to preserve the user experience. This is one thing that EMC really wanted to be careful with. They have over 100,000 users using their system. And so it would be a major impact to change the user experience. And then they had files in the hundreds of gigabytes in size. And that's what really was breaking down the systems, is the storage that was involved for that, the scalability, the reliability of the systems. And they found that by focusing on one area, the file sharing aspect, they were able to solve this problem quite quickly. So they were able to keep their legacy application, their investments, They were able to now implement unlimited file sizes into the system. They could continue to have a seamless user experience by using APIs that were well published, that were easy to use. And now we were able to build scalability and maintain high availability and even make the availability better for EMC. And so, of course, their benefits were going to be high uptime. And when we say high uptime, we're touching on 100% uptime in terms of being able to receive and exchange files. And so now it takes a big burden away from the main core piece of the system, the data. And so, as we all know, data is king. And that's what has to be made available 100% of the time. And then introducing enterprise class security, making sure that we have a solution that is securing that information, making customers feel comfortable in doing business with us because their data is protected. And so the return on investment was obvious right from the start. We were able to get to the customers quicker, problems were getting solved, fixes were getting delivered. And so now we have another example with a company by the name of Vocera. And Vocera, they had to modernize a physical delivery system. So we do see the two spectrums. We do see companies that have existing software that they're using internally. Vocera also had software they were using internally, but the exchange of files was done manually. And so think of, DVD, creating DVDs, having to deliver those through email or through mail, also having to communicate through email. So their business challenges became slow delivery of software updates, and that really hurts a company, obviously, when you can't get those updates out quickly enough. Then your customer satisfaction starts to suffer. The files were too large to attach an email, so as their software became more sophisticated, the files that they were trying to share also became larger. And so email just became obsolete in terms of a way of exchanging files. And going the FTP route was also not a good solution. It's essentially the same thing as attaching emails in terms of complexity of deployment. And then there was another key part is all of their information was in a CRM, their customer information. So entitlement had to be addressed when sending information or exchanging information. So the solution was to now, again, an integration point within their CRM, making it seamless to their customer and elevating the customer experience. So the ease of use for the downloads to the customers was a key concern in the solution, and that was solved. Receiving support files easily, the users coming to a page, a web portal, and simply uploading files, unlimited size, was going to, again, decrease the time it takes to fix problems and get the fixes back to the customer. And so an integrated API to the CRM system was provided. And so now the benefits become clear. Improved governance over the software that they manage and that they send out to customers, being able to track where that software is going and who's downloading it and when did they download it, making sure that our customers are satisfied because we reliably can send them the information. Improve customer and partner satisfaction. Enterprise class security comes back. So again, making sure that that software is going to the right people, that we're integrated into the CRM so that entitlement comes into play and that we're not sending information to a customer that may not be using our service anymore or that have canceled with our service. And so making sure that that all stays secure. And then fast time to market. It literally took 2 weeks to develop the solution. And so integration is key, but integration doesn't need to be something that's scary. It doesn't need to be something that we think is going to be a huge transformation. Having an easy API to talk to, integrating into your current CRM, whether that's a Salesforce CRM or whether it's Microsoft Dynamics or Oracle Sales Cloud, any application can really be integrated with proper APIs. So when we look at modernizing an EFSS solution into a company's support organization, we need to provide a extensible, complete platform. And when companies come to an EFSS solution, many different companies, depending on their internal security policies or industry regulations, may need to have different solutions, whether they're cloud-based or whether they're on-premise based or whether they're a hybrid of those two. So we find that a lot of companies, again, maybe more like the financial institutions that have higher degrees of regulations and audit, may require on-premise solutions. And so what they would do is take their EFSS solution, bring it in-house, and then integrate it with their existing applications. However, they still need to reach the general public. And so to do that, they could also leverage a cloud service. And so they would stand up their EFSS solution in the cloud, have their public connect to the cloud solution, and then have maybe private networks that are connecting the cloud service with the internal deployment of the EFSS solution. And now really bringing security to the next level and ensuring that the information is still received in a very transparent manner and that the customer is never affected. And so always providing a total solution for partners and customers, yet providing solutions to the IT department, to the CIO, to the CSO, to make sure that their demands are met by providing, again, flexible solutions, integrating with such things like Active Directory internally to make sure that we can have single sign-on through applications that are integrated, such as our Salesforce integrations that we mentioned earlier, or any kind of service application, Zendesk, for example. And then extending those single sign-ons to the cloud service also, not just the internal applications. And then having customers come in and maybe self-register themselves for an account in the EFSS system so they can easily transfer information when a case is open. And so again, the APIs come in here, and what you can do is, as a full business process, when a customer opens a case is opened in the EFSS as well as in your case management system, and then the files that are created are linked to the cases, and as uploads are happening to the case folders, they're automatically updated in the case system, and so agents and the customer are in complete connection with how they're exchanging their information. So what are some of the recommendations we have? So again, modernizing a customer support system is kind of like managing a software development process. We can almost follow the SDLC methodology. The first thing we want to do is really look at seamless integration. We really want to integrate into the existing business processes. We want to improve those existing business processes. So we do a full analysis. We do a requirements analysis of the existing business processes, and we look at the gaps. We figure out where can we improve our service to our customers primarily. Being in customer success, I'm very sensitive to that, and we want to make sure that our customers are always successful and always happy. Preserving our existing investments are going to be important to our board members. The company has invested a lot of money, often in ERP systems, in customer support systems that work perfectly fine. But there's always little pieces of those systems that sometimes have to be fixed or augmented in order to provide support to our growing business needs. We want to minimize development time, and that can be done. If we look at agile development methodologies, we can really pinpoint some of the key issues, the elephant in the room, that we need to solve. And we go solve those problems first. And then we go ahead and build the additional functionality, the bells and whistles, if you wish, for entitlement or invoicing or HR management. So we find that EFSS solutions come in, they solve a primary problem, and then they expand. And it's important to have a platform that can expand. So then we looked at a phased deployment approach, right? We talked about methodologies. Agile is a good one. We look at the mission critical issues. We solve those issues first. And so our development phase, our deployment phase is very focused. And then ultimately, we want to improve security all the time. There's always room for improvement when it comes to security. We look at internal governance, especially in software deployments or software development where we're sending software to our customers. It's very important that we have internal governance on the quality of the information or the software that's being delivered. And then how do we know when people have received that information and how are they using it? And so governance becomes very important. And then we also want to improve our external reputation. We want our customers to do business with us in all confidence. And then finally, we need scalability. We need a platform, not just an EFSS solution, an out-of-the-box solution most of the time requires additional growth. And so we look at our business process evolution. We want to make sure that we have a platform that can grow with us, that can go through that SDLC process over and over again as we evolve our business process. And then our business environment needs to adapt. We look at, for example, the EMC issue. You know, they just got purchased or acquired by another company. And so their business processes are likely going to change. They're going to adapt to a larger audience. And so we want to make sure that the platform is also adaptable, and certainly the EFSS solution has to be adaptable.
Those are some great recommendations. Those are some great recommendations, Daniel. And I think with that, we'll look at, how Thru can be a really good fit for you, and why Thru, really, comes into the picture, and what you could potentially, consider when you're considering a solution to solve your customer support file sharing strategy. At the same time, I have a quick question for you guys here. We would love to understand, how are your customer support teams currently sharing files? And there's a little poll here that we're just launching right now. If you could just take a minute to respond, that would be really helpful for us to just understand where you come from. How are your support desk and teams, responding, or how are they actually today sharing large software files or patches? So if you could take a minute to just respond to this, that would be really helpful for us to get a sense of, how you guys are looking at right now. So just going to give it 30 more seconds. Looks like majority of you guys are responded saying that you do have a file sharing solution or a subscription to a license solution. That is the ideal and the right way to go ahead with this one. So how do you move from here? So let me just jump onto the deck again. Okay. So let's look at why Thru is a good fit, and what really makes Thru unique in this space specifically. So the company as such, if you look at the company background, the business has been on for about 14 plus years. We have been in the business in file sharing and secure file sharing business for the longest time, and also the fact that our focus is only business, and Thru is only focused on business users and focused solely on the enterprise market, differentiates it from the other players in the market. We have been constantly recognized by Gartner and Forrester and positioned in Magic Quadrant and Wave. The platform is a service-oriented architecture platform. Definitely gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of whether it is the breadth of APIs or whether it is in terms of the integration and the customization capability. Thru has recently added the EMC 115,000 seat license that Daniel just spoke about, and of course ACI Worldwide, one of our biggest other customers. So we'll touch a little bit on the customers in a minute, but let me take you through what's the ecosystem for enterprise file sharing and collaboration, and really how can you integrate this with your customer support overall process. At the base level, Thru is truly a content management platform, and it can be offered both on cloud or on premise. So you're really plugging a file sharing capability to your existing customer application or existing customer support process. Thru, of course, can be accessed via different channels, whether it is via web, by logging onto the website, whether it is via email plugins like Outlook and Lotus Notes, which also gives the capability for your customer support teams to be able to share files within their emails, work within the cases from their email inbox itself without having to ever step out of their mailbox. That is a true game changer in terms of how easy and user-friendly the system is. Also, Thru offers mobile applications. So let's say there is an urgent mission-critical case, a mobile access allows a customer support person to be able to respond more quickly and swiftly, be able to take those instructions and be able to upload file back into or look at some information if they need to. The two key things that you need to look at in this ecosystem really, and of course all these different options like our business application add-ins, or whether it is, through Dropbox, where customers could actually drop their log files or patch files back into to the Thru user. So that's another possibility. Where I really want you to focus on in this specific slide is really two things. One is our business application add-ins. We have deep integration with Salesforce and also with SharePoint, and Salesforce is truly a key application when it comes to customer support strategy and file sharing. So in case if you're using Salesforce to manage your cases or support cases, you can truly work with it and with Thru as a way to manage your log files, customer support file sharing, be able to track it, be able to see, what happened, what patch you sent to a customer. It's truly integrated in a lot more intelligent fashion than what would be if you were to use a file sharing solution or a license file sharing solution separately, where information is not logged back and forth between your support management and the file sharing system. So that's truly a big difference here. Also, our APIs, our breadth of APIs is truly helpful in terms of having the integration. And Daniel, if you could touch a little bit around how extensive it is in terms of when it comes to APIs for our customers.
Yeah, so thank you, Sue. Actually, when you look at business applications and APIs, there isn't really a problem that's big enough for us. We've really taken on the most challenging business challenges and solved them in very easy ways, and that's because of the API. And the API, when we look at all of these components on the Thru platform, the API talks to all of the components. And so Sue mentioned earlier the Thru Dropbox, for example, uploading files. Well, the Dropbox was built on the API. So bringing that Dropbox into any part of the application is simply done by the API, and modernizing it too, or customizing it to your specific needs is very easy through the API. So whether we're calling single sign-on systems, whether we're registering users automatically, or we're creating folders that are tied directly to a case management issue, those are all possible through the API. And then finally, obviously, the uploading and downloading of information is done through that API. So really, there's nothing you can't do when you look at the extensive capabilities of our Thru API.
Yep, that really makes it, truly an enterprise player in this space, because this is what differentiates Thru from the other solution providers who are largely only focused on collaboration and file sharing. This is really truly about adding file sharing to your existing business applications without having to ask your customer support teams to go on to a different application, or, when they need to send patches or software files. So let's look at what the goal really for Thru is in terms of, our business goal is truly to help businesses like yours balance customer experience, security, and complex needs. When it comes to whether you're moving to the cloud, whether you're really looking at mobility, whether you're looking at the digital transformation, the deep backend integration, whether you're looking at having solutions that actually just integrates with your applications, or even when it comes to security, we have very extensive considerations in all these aspects, giving enterprises and users the ability to work with ease and security. That's what differentiates in this space. Thru has had a very strong reputation of solving complex needs of enterprises worldwide. As you can see, we have done some tremendous amount of work when it comes to really understanding the deep problems of what these businesses needed than just giving a out of the box file sharing solution. We actually worked with the customers at a one-on-one level to really understand what their needs were and what really made sense, whether it was a deployment consideration, whether it was looking at what other needs, and that kind of has defined a product strategy as well to a large extent. For example, on the screen here, you can see, Daniel covered an example prior around software delivery, which was really a Manhattan example where they needed to replace their FTP system to respond to the customer support cases, and really wanted to have an enterprise file sync and share solution like Thru to actually work with their partners and their customers, to be able to log in files and, adding their support cases and solving and troubleshooting. When it came to Visa, it was really, again, being able to automate the file transfer, being able to really do this at a very easy way, and also having a high security. And this was, of course, deployed at the cloud level. When it came to Synopsys, again, it was a very similar story where they wanted to replace FTP and really go ahead with a way where they could exchange, files with their partners seamlessly. MWH, which was recently very big on news, who built the Panama Canal, definitely definitely wanted to use a solution to be able to enable their workers around the world, as well as their office people, to share files, design files, whether it was the CAD files or truly a project management scenario in this case. Costa is a very strong example and a very, very big example where innovation really comes into the picture. This was a very complex problem where Costa has ships around the world, and they need to be able to send files to the shore and to other ships, being able to share inventory files, important, where the bandwidth, which was really being used, via satellite, was getting choked up due to the fact that satellite connections are unreliable and also very expensive. And that's the problem that Thru solved through OptiBand product, which is truly a game changer in this space, which allows which allows the IT teams to prioritize what messages need to go through before any other messages, which can also do compression and also be able to allow users to actually or allow the system to pick up the file where it left off in case of weather issue or whether there was a breakage in the satellite connection, and be able to really improve the overall experience even when it came to poor bandwidth or poor internet connection. So that was what Thru solved, keeping true to the vision of being able to allow businesses to do business no matter where they are. Of course, Motley Fool, financial organization, had a big requirement around volume file transfer, and of course HKS Architects, another project management, requirement very similar to MWH. So these are just some of the examples of how Thru has been solving needs of the companies or business worldwide, and this really helps us explain the fact that whether your problem is a small file sharing situation or whether it's a massive or a bigger, much more complex problem around customer support, we can truly take care of all those different scenarios and have a solution that that really caters to your unique needs. Of course, we are being trusted by leading organizations worldwide. As you can see, we have a few names here which are very big: VMware, Dell EMC, ExxonMobil, Sage, which Daniel already covered prior, the Dell EMC and the Vocera case. We also have we're also covering organizations mid-size and also small-size organizations around the world. So we're truly, able to navigate between your needs and navigate between the size of companies. So that really makes a big difference in terms of what makes Thru unique in this space. And last but not the least, if you look at it, why we think we're truly recognized, and a complete offering is the fact that we offer mobile applications. The analysts recommend, as we have global data centers around the world, 5 data centers around the world, and now with OptiSpeed, which is our latest offering, we are actually able to offer up to 20 times faster transfer of files. That truly makes a difference for organizations who are spread around the world. And having the flexibility of deployment, whether it is your cloud, our cloud, or a hybrid situation, or whether it is about the integration, whether you really want a deep front end or a back end integration, we truly cover every single scenario. And Thru can actually help you in a big way when it comes to improving your customer support experience or customer support file sharing strategy. So in a nutshell, really, you should look at Thru if there is a need on this front, and we'll open up for questions from your end. And if you do have any needs around understanding or taking a look at a demo or want to trial Thru, please write to us at info@thruing.com, or even you could reach out to both Daniel and myself on this email, daniel.hotubise and my name at thruing.com. So please feel free to write us, and we're taking some questions. If you do have any questions, please let us know. We can either unmute you, or you can even post the question on the chat. In case if you missed anything, we will send across a copy of this presentation and recording after this call, after this webinar, and with a thank you email. So do expect that. And if there are any questions, just shoot us an email. We are available here, and we'll be able to happily recommend the right strategy for you to improve your customer support file sharing. With that, I think we'll conclude this presentation today. Thank you very much for taking time to join us, and you have a great day. Thank you.